Hi, it's Jansen from VMO. Welcome back to the VMO YouTube channel. Recently we've been talking about rigs quite a lot, and today's focus is on the drop-down pulley rig. It's a rig that I've used quite a bit over the years. It's got a huge following, but how do you make it? Let's get into it right now. So here we have the drop-down pulley rig. Now, as you can see, the top of the rig looks very similar to a standard pulley rig, but we've got that Gemini bent link clip there, which is holding the trace line. So we've got an 80-pound rig body. We've obviously got a couple of beads here. We've got a size 3 Cedra crane swivel, a size 2 Cedra crane swivel, rig body 80 pounds, snood on this one is 80 pound. And if I work my way down to the hooks, the bottom of the rig, you'll see I've got a size 2.0 Varivas big mouth hook. I've got a bait stop above that and a little bit of telephone wire. I've got a Gemini solo bait clip. And obviously you could use the hook size of your choice on this rig. You could use a dongle, you could use pennel hooks, you could use a single hook. It's entirely up to you. But for the purpose of this video, I've chosen to use a single hook just to keep things simple. Right, let's get into making this rig. So as with any rig that I make, I start at the bottom and I tie on either a lead clip or a bait clip, depending on the type of rig. So I've got a Gemini splashdown solo clip. I'm going to tie that on with a grinner knot. This is 100-pound breaking strain Asso Classic. So pop the lead on there. A lead is a really good way of pulling knots up actually when you're making a rig. You can obviously use a knot puller as well, but it's just nice to have something to hold on to. And when you're making a rig like this, you can make sure it all clips down as well. So let's snug that knot down. Again, no need to wet this stuff. It's nice and smooth. It'll snug down absolutely fine without any wetting. Like that. Trim the knot. So there's the start, and I'm going to pull off about 3 foot. And again, this is the kind of rig where you can experiment with the length. You don't have to use 3 foot, you could use a shorter rig, you could use a longer rig. So there we go, we've got that far. Let's get some components slid on. So the first thing we're going to do is slide on a bead. This is a 4mm Gemini bead, but you could use a standard 5mm bead, no issue. So bead, Gemini bent link clip, and this is going to form the basis of our drop down pulley rig. On that one goes, and then another bead, and then a size 2 Cedra crane swivel. Our third and final bead. And then to prevent the components sliding off the end, we're going to tie on a size 3 Cedra crane swivel. So grinner knot again. When it comes to pulling up knots on swivels, you probably all know by now that I like to use the good old knot puller. So we're not going to wet this line, we're going to tease that down like that. Trim the tag ends. So there we have our components on the rig, and it should look something like that. So next we're going to tie on the trace line, and for this I've got some 80-pound Asso Classic. So now if we come back up to the top of the rig, the idea with the drop down pulley is that this Gemini bent link clip is going to locate in the size 3 swivel like that, and then your trace line runs down the rig body and clips into the Gemini solo at the bottom of the rig. So let's just run that down now, see how we're doing for size. Remember, I've still got the lead on the end of the rig, just helps with everything. And there we go. So if we were to cut that now at around about where the disc is on the solo clip, so where my thumb is, and we're going to snip that off there. So there's the end of our trace line that we're going to tie our hook to. But first of all, we've got to slide on some bait stop components. So here I've got the end of the trace line. I'm just going to slide on a single bead. I'm then going to slide on a sequin. So remember, these are the bait stops of my choice. If you're using a pennel rig, you don't need to use a bait stop because the top hook of the pennel rig is going to secure everything anyway. But this is to stop the bait from flying up the snood away from the hook. So with those two in place, we can now tie on the hook. Again, this is entirely at your discretion, but this is a size 2.0 Varivas Big Mouth Extra, and again, an 80-pound breaking strain snood line. You could use a dongle, a pennel rig, a single hook, entirely up to you. So let's tie that on with a grinner knot. Like that. Pair of pliers. Tease that knot down. Pull it up tight. Lovely. So we can now trim that off. And remember, our bait stop components, as it stands, are free floating, which is obviously not what we want. We want to make a firm stop just up here to stop the bait from travelling up and away from the hook on the cast. So for this, I'm going to use my old favourite telephone wire. It's really old school stuff, but hugely effective for this kind of thing. And you can make the stop literally as firm or as movable as you like. So we just wrap that round, pinch it together, wrap it round a bit more, and I'm going to create a really firm stop here. If you've got a fairly large bait on, you know, it faces a bit of resistance, you don't want it to get pushed up away from the hook. So there we go, that's nice. Does that move? Ever so slightly, but that's fine. So let's trim that down. And there you can see, it takes a bit of force to move that down. The bait's not going to push that, that's for sure. So that is our finished snood line, or trace if you like, and that is in fact the completed rig. So let's now clip it down and see how it looks in action. So if you've not used a drop down pulley rig before, they can be a little bit fiddly to clip down, but you do soon get used to it. So hook locates in the solo clip like that. And if we run up to the top of the rig body, you'll be able to see that there is our trace swivel, and it clips onto the bent clip. So just to recap, size 2 Cedar crane swivel, a couple of beads, size 3 swivel, another bead, the all-important Gemini bent link clip. Without that, the rig just wouldn't work. And we're going to run all the way down to the bottom of the rig and the bait clip and the hook, complete with bait stop. So that was a tackle talk and a demonstration on how I like to make a drop down pulley rig. It's a really popular rig for ray fishing. You can obviously experiment with different lengths, different breaking strains of trace line and different hook patterns. You can use single hooks, pennel hooks and dongles. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks also to everyone who leaves a comment in the comments section. We really do appreciate that. And I'll catch you again.